If you're a guy trying to get down to around 10% body fat or a woman trying to get around maybe the mid to high teens, I'm sure you're wondering how long it'll take you to get there from your current position. So today, not only am I going to show you how to calculate how much time is needed, but also some things that are far more important for you to reach your goal. And stick around to the end of the video to find out how long it took me to go from this to under 10% body fat. Hey, this is Colin DeWaay. So if you're interested in this kind of content, if you're looking to get in the best shape of your life, then make sure you subscribe and click on that bell notification so you don't miss anything, as this is what I love to cover. Alright, so I am going to help you figure out how long it could take to get that shredded look you're after. However, I think it's important to talk about this first, and that is setting expectations for how long you think it should take can be a serious trap and even keep you from reaching your goal if you're not careful. See, the thing is, getting to these extremely low levels of body fat, it's not an easy process and can be much more difficult than we think. Not only that, but we don't live in a perfect world. There's going to be things that happen in your life. You're going to have setbacks, so you need to learn to be flexible with things. It doesn't mean it's not possible, as there's always ways to get it done if you really want to make it happen, regardless of what happens in your life, if it's that important to you. That said, the problem with creating expectations is if it takes longer than you think it should, oftentimes this leads you to feel like something's wrong, like you're failing. It puts you in a bad spot mentally, and sometimes this is the very reason you end up giving up altogether. Whereas if you go into it with no expectations and just take whatever results you get, you end up appreciating the progress you make so much more. So please understand, just because it may take, and probably will take, longer than you think, that doesn't mean it's not worth it. And I actually argue the longer it takes and the harder it is, the more rewarding it is, and the more positively it changes you, kind of like what Les Brown says, the harder the battle, the sweeter the victory. Now you may be thinking, how cliche, and don't go anywhere, I'm about to get into how to calculate how much time, but I'm telling you, this is true. I mean, think back to all the things in your life that you've accomplished that you were super proud of, things that changed you in a really positive way. They were all things that were difficult, but even though they were hard, you still kept going and you accomplished it anyways. So we got to stop looking at hard as some bad thing. It's actually a very positive thing if you embrace that challenge and go with it. So just remember that next time you're finding that it feels like it's really difficult and you wish it were easy. Anyways, I thought that was really important to talk about first. So now let's get into how to calculate how long it may take to get down to 10% body fat. Keeping in mind that this is more for people who don't have a lot of weight to lose. If you're someone who's obese, there's a pretty good chance you're not going to get from being severely overweight down to 10% or less body fat in one shot. I mean, can it happen? Yes, there's always examples of people who've made these more extreme results, but the body is very adaptive and it gets harder and harder to lose weight over time. So just because you can't necessarily get all the way there in one shot doesn't mean you can't get there. It's just probably going to take multiple phases of cutting down for a while, reverse dieting back out, getting your calories up, getting your metabolism back into a better place, and then cutting back down again later and taking it in phases. But anyways, let's just say, for instance, you were 180 pounds at about 15% body fat. So you need to lose about 5% of that 180 pounds, assuming that we're losing nothing but body fat. I'll touch on that in a second. And 15% of the 180 pounds is 27 pounds of fat. So then you're looking to lose about 5% of your weight from fat. That would be about 9 pounds of body fat to lose. So how do we take that and figure out how long is this going to take? Well, keep in mind, we want to make sure we're losing no more than about 1% of our weight on average per week, as this is to ensure you're not losing more muscle mass, decreasing performance, and keeping yourself in as good a spot as possible metabolically throughout the process. Because remember, we're looking to reduce body fat, not reduce a number on the scale. So even though we all like to see that scale number go down, if you're losing weight too fast, you're much more likely to lose more muscle, and now you need to lose even more weight than earlier predicted because you're losing muscle too. So in this case, if you're losing that 1%, that'd be about 1.8 pounds per week. So that would be, in theory, only 5 weeks to lose your weight. Sounds pretty easy, right? Well, not so fast. It's pretty unlikely you're gonna get there in just 5 weeks. First, as you lose weight, now 1% of your weight is less on a week-by-week basis. Plus, fat loss is just gonna slow down over time as your body does fight against fat loss as a survival instinct. Second, you're probably not gonna lose the exact 1% every single week. It's just not that easy to do. And even then, I would still argue that actually being a little below that 1%, maybe like 0.7, 0.8% per week, is a little more optimal just to make sure you're retaining that lean body mass. And third, as I mentioned earlier, things are gonna happen in life. You never know what's gonna come up, what might knock you off track a little bit, and you have to factor also how well you're adhering to the plan. Just saying saying you're going to do something is much different than actually executing it. So you want to make sure you're sticking to things. Then you also have to factor in other things like, are you going to be taking diet breaks and other measures to try to not only retain more lean body mass, but keep yourself in a better spot metabolically, enjoy some mental benefits and some more food for a while, and other things like this. So as a general rule, however long that math equation comes out to, you can probably at least double that, and it wouldn't be crazy to even say triple it, if not even more sometimes. And I know that probably sounds crazy, but trust me, anyone who's gone through this process before would probably agree. Losing fat in general is just not an easy process, and the leaner you're gonna get, that more shredded look, your body's gonna fight you even more, and it just gets more difficult. So it usually isn't as simple as just math equations. Now, all of that said, here's what I consider to be way more important than whatever your body fat percentages you're looking for to get the goal you actually want. Which, I guess I haven't touched on this yet, but there are many ways to try to get body fat percentages. You can do things like just calipers, or they have these like in-body scans you can do, DEXA scans. Whatever you do, if you're gonna do that, make sure you do the same thing consistently, but they all have relatively high degrees of errors, especially some of them. But don't get caught up in that number anyways. It really doesn't matter. What your body fat percentage actually is completely meaningless outside of the ego side of things to be able to say, I'm at X% body fat. Your real goal isn't a certain amount of body fat, it's a certain look, right? So pay more attention to things like that, paying attention to how things are looking in the mirror. Pay attention to waist measurement, as all other measurements, while they can have some use, there's muscle and fat involved, but your waist measurements around the belly button, that's pretty much all body fat. So these things are way more important than any number you may come up with. Plus, the look you're after is oftentimes a lower body fat percentage than you think it might be. It's why I've literally never known my body fat. I've never got it tested. I've never cared what it is, because that's not what I'm interested in. It just doesn't matter, and we carry so much more body fat than we think we do. I'm telling you, whenever you want to get to a certain look, we almost always have to lose more body fat than we think. Not only that, everyone holds body fat differently. You may be trying to get down to 10% body fat because you want to see your abs, but some people can see abs at 10%, some people can see them at 12%, some people can see them at 15+%, some people have to get down into single digits before they even see anything. If you look at me for an example, you can still see a trace of my abs up around 200 pounds, whereas to get that completely shredded look, I had to get down to about 160 pounds. Not a lot of people can still see abs adding 40 pounds to their frame. And I know, lucky, right? You know, that's just my genetics. I can't help it. Those genetics are great for that, but they also are what makes it harder for me to build muscle. We all have our things. We always want what we don't have, right? But the thing is, you can't control your genetics. Plus, if you want to take myself for example, as far as how long it took to get shredded, so I had gone through a building phase, got up to about 180 pounds, and then cut down from 180 pounds to this 160 pounds. And that was about a 6-month process. If you were to do the math like I did earlier in this video, then we're only talking about a 10 or 11 week process. Took much more than that. Does that make it not worth it? Absolutely not. It was well worth it. So we can't get too caught up in how long it takes. Now you may be thinking that's all well and great, but how exactly do I make this happen? What steps do I need to take? So if you want to know how to get shredded, then make sure you check out this top video next, and I'll walk you through what you need to know. Otherwise, I think you'll like this bottom video instead. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments below, and I'll see you in one of those other videos.